I'm Casey Andrews, part of our Precision Ag team. What I kind of went over in some of my presentations was some of the results that we got from ExactShot and some of our other trials that we went through. So what was kind of cool and exciting about ExactShot this year was just the savings we got. In most of our irrigated trials, we saw anywhere from 60 to 70% savings on starter fertilizer inputs with similar yields, if not a little bit of a yield bump. On our dryland trials, we saw about 80% savings. Same thing as the irrigated trials, we were seeing similar yield, if not a little bit bump between the continuous and dosing trials that we did. Kind of the concept behind ExactShot is we're just spraying the seed itself with starter fertilizer versus the whole furrow. So that's where we get those savings. So it's only spraying like a 2 or 3 inch band on there. And in our irrigated trials, usually the seeds are planted about 6 inches apart. In our dryland trials, they're a little bit farther, so we get a little bit more savings when we have it in dryland situations there. What was nice this year is we kind of mixed it up a little bit. So we had some internal trials that we did at the test farm, but we also took it out and did quite a few demos with customers. So we were able to spread it out between Northwest Nebraska all the way down to Northeast Colorado. We probably had about 8 to 10 trials total. So it's nice to be able to spread out this technology and just see that works across our whole AOR. There's a lot of really good ROI with this technology from what we ran numbers on. So I think for some of our irrigated stuff, we saw about $20 per acre savings, and we crunched some numbers even on some of our dryland trials, and we saw right around $30 per acre savings on those trials. With some of the new updates, historically we've only been able to spray on the seed itself. So moving forward, we have the opportunity to put an offset in there and move that crop input application off the seed a little bit. We can look at maybe doing some different rates or different products. That way we can kind of adapt it between what the grower wants and tailor it to his fertilizer program. One nice thing we don't really hear about too much, like we focus on the savings and how much can save running a technology like this, but there's a productivity boost from running ExactShot too. On our irrigated trials, we were putting on 1.7 gallons per acre compared to what they would typically put 5 gallons on. So they can go that much longer throughout the course of the day because they're using that much less product. So not having to fill up so much. What's nice is like right now I'm standing next to a brand new planter that we'll be running this year that has that technology on it, but there's a lot of opportunities for older machines too. So we have the puck kits that we can install. So as long as it's on an ExactEmerge planter, we could look at putting ExactShot on there to capitalize on that ROI that we have been talking about here at Expo. There's going to be a lot more conversations about ExactShot. So last year it was kind of the big topic in the room. We had really good savings. Obviously that's why we did the trials this year, just to prove that this technology would work. And I think a lot more people are getting interested. The cost of starter fertilizer is big, so any opportunity for people to get savings on their operation, there's a big opportunity there. We've had some really good producers that allowed us to do demos on their operation and prove that it works. We've had good testimonials here, even at Expo. So some guys that ran that technology, and they're advocates for it. It's cool to see it actually run in the field, see the results that Deere has published, and proves that it works in this area. If you're interested in learning more about this, if you've been to the Expo or just have heard some of our social media posts talking about ExactShot, get with anybody on the Precision Ag team, product specialists, even your salesman. We can help run some numbers. There's a ExactShot calculator on there that we can look at ROI for your operation and just see if it works for you.
My name is Levi Lemons. I'm a product specialist for combines and planters out of Scottsbluff and Torrington. Here we've got our 1725C demo planter. We're kind of showcasing all the latest stuff Deere has on it. So we got our new 55 bushel CCS tank and our ExactShot system, which actually uses the nozzles from our ExactApply sprayers to apply 1 to 3 inch bands of fertilizer in furrow on the seed. In our test trials on our test farms here in our area, we saw in irrigated land 66% savings in fertilizer, and on dry land we saw up to 80% in savings. If you're running a pretty expensive in furrow or a starter, you start seeing pretty high savings on on any of your chemical costs. Having that kind of savings on chemical, you end up not having to fill fertilizer near as much. You can get a couple loads of seed on before you have to fill fertilizer, and just saves you a lot of time and a lot more efficient. They've also been working on being able to spray between the seeds, so if you have fertilizer that burns seed or burns your crops, you can go there. With the new updates, they're working on being able to go between seeds. Yeah, if you're running like 6-inch seed spacing and on the ExactShot in your display in the tractor, it'll show you this is what your rate is, this is how long your fertilizer band is, and your seed spacing is up to 6 inches in there. It'll tell you that on the display. You can adjust your fertilizer to get it between seeds if that's what you're doing.
My name's Preston Juneman. So something that's fairly new with these air seeders, and it's also on the trailed carts and leading carts as well. We can order these from the factory with implement receivers. So they're Starfire ready is the option. And it's pretty handy because we're tying into a harness right here on the tool. We don't have to run any harnessing forward. So when guys order that, they're able to use implement guidance, AutoPath, everything to be a lot more accurate with the tools. With implement guidance, it helps a lot with turning back in and making sure that tool is perfectly lined up when they start going through the field. But also in sandy conditions, these tools, you know, with the flotation tires, they tend to slide around a little bit. So having that implement guidance to steer that tractor uphill or just keep it directly online and keep our guest rows consistent. It's really hard to find a guest row with these air seeders when they actually have the receiver mounted on them. Today we're talking about the N500C Air Seeders and some of the features they've had out since about 2020, but obviously highlighting some of the big features as far as tank scales, using our active cal, getting our weight from our commodity system, and making calibrating these meters a lot easier, as well as talking about meter selection and what's right as far as crops and rates that they're doing. So when we talk about tank scales, we've got 4 scales that are on each corner of the CCS system. So basically with our central fill, we're reading the whole weight of that tank, and we're able to go seed a minimum of 4 acres up to however many acres we want to seed, and use that tank scale reading and how many revolutions that our meters do to post calibrate with how much weight per revolution that drill is doing. That gives us a new MDV value and makes us super accurate with those meters. What we've seen with customers is at the end of the season, when they've done, let's say over 1,000 acres, when they're coming down and they're writing down like, okay, this is how much seed I should have used versus how much I applied, they're within 2 bushels, like in soybeans or wheat when they're seeding. Customer feedback based on these drills has been really positive. We can dump these meters directly out right into a container. Just the ability to get underneath these meters compared to a 1990 has been huge.
My name is Isabel and I'm a precision ag consultant. We've been able to use a lot of AutoPath adoption with high value crops, and why this is so important is when you're planting seed. Seed is very expensive and you don't want to run over the crop when you make those beds. So we've seen a lot of success in minimizing how much we're running over the crop by using AutoPath, since it's remembering exactly where the beds are. When you go in with your sprayer, it's going to reference that data to know exactly where each row was to avoid running over the crop. So just to get into AutoPath and how you can get the most out of your advanced license, you'll need an implement receiver, but it's recording each row. So if you're going through and doing tillage, if you're making beds for planting, if you're planting your seed, it'll record exactly where each row of the implement was, so you're not running over each row. So when you send that to your sprayer, it's going to take the data from the previous pass so that next pass can follow exactly where that was. So once you recorded your first pass with AutoPath, when you get to the next pass, so if you're starting tillage and then you're doing seeding for AutoPath, you'll have to create a work plan. So when you go into Operations Center, you'll click the Plan tab and then Work Planner. From there, you can pick your AutoPath lines, and then you just pick the piece of equipment. In order to run AutoPath, you have to have advanced licensing, so make sure you have that on all your machines. You can also do AutoPath by boundary, and that is all done in Op Center. So when you add an AutoPath boundary, you're pre-creating your passes. You can do it by heading angle, you can do it by previous lines, and that will pre-create all of the lines for your pass on Operations Center based on what you want it to follow. The best way to do a boundary recording is by going into the field either with a gator or a tractor, have SFRTK on it, and drive the boundary. This is very important when you're using AutoPath boundaries, that you have the highest accuracy boundary. So you can still draw them, but that's not the highest accuracy one. If you can go out into the field with a receiver with SFRTK and record the boundary, that is the best way to do it. And we can reference those lines and those edges in the boundary to create an AutoPath boundary. And if you ever wanted to get into autonomy, it is required to have a driven boundary with SFRTK.